no one I've ever met would be more capable of faking their death than him. But he also, I don't want to discount, I watched him turn into an alcoholic with a disease. We didn't have substance abuse clinics, so I knew there was an elephant in the room, but I couldn't define it. He's dead.
Lost in a Roman wilderness of pain, Jim Morrison, the legendary frontman of The Doors, remains a powerful symbol of rock rebellion and poetic genius. His shocking death at 27 in a Paris bathtub has spawned one of music's greatest mysteries. A thrilling new documentary dares to revisit the sensational conspiracy theory that the Lizard King faked his death to escape the pressures of fame, now living under the alias Frank as a maintenance worker in Syracuse, New York. Filmmaker Jeff Finn's investigation reveals eerie parallels and puzzling coincidences that can't be ignored. The mystery of Morrison's death.
Jim Morrison, the lead singer for The Doors, a rock music group, is dead. He was 27. His personal manager said he died in Paris, probably of heart failure, last Saturday.
On July 3, 1971, Jim Morrison was found dead in the bathtub of his Paris apartment by his girlfriend, Pamela Corson. No autopsy was performed, and his body was quickly buried at Père Lachaise Cemetery. Officially, the cause of death was heart failure, likely related to his known substance abuse. However, details surrounding his passing were always suspicious. Corson gave conflicting accounts to police and friends, and the death certificate was signed by a physician, Dr. Max Vasile, whose background has proven elusive to researchers. The delayed announcement of Morrison's death added more fuel to the fire. American news outlets didn't receive word for nearly a week, creating a fertile environment for speculation. Many fans and journalists questioned why there was no post-mortem examination, particularly considering Morrison's fame and the suspicious context of his passing. Furthermore, the sealed coffin and the absence of American consular involvement in the burial left a void of verifiable facts. For decades, that void has been filled with conspiracy theories. Biographer Danny Sugarman once commented that Morrison, quote, refused to stay dead, referencing the constant reports of sightings across the globe. From Africa to Australia, fans claim to have seen the iconic singer, often describing him as older but still instantly recognizable. Such stories were dismissed as fan fantasy, yet they persisted, helped along by the mythic status Morrison had achieved even before his death. One of the earliest proponents of the idea that Morrison faked his own death was music journalist R. Gary Patterson, who noted the rock star's long-standing interest in faking death as a form of transformation. Morrison reportedly expressed frustration with fame and hinted to friends that he could imagine reinventing himself completely. The notion wasn't entirely implausible, at least in Morrison's mind, and now, over 50 years later, filmmaker Jeff Finn believes he may have found Morrison living under a new name. Frank in Syracuse, the lookalike in hiding.
In his series Before the End, Finn speculates that Morrison faked his death and assumed the identity of a maintenance man named Frank living in Syracuse. Believers say a number of eerie coincidences justify the theory, and Frank was supposedly friends with Doors drummer John Densmore. While Frank admits he's not Jim Morrison, he says if anybody could have pulled off faking their own death, it would have been Morrison.
Where were you when you found out that he died? What was that like? Was that an expected thing? Was it a horrible shock?
No, it wasn't expected. I thought, oh my God, he's going to be an Irish drunk and live to 80.
The central figure in Jeff Finn's documentary series Before the End, searching for Jim Morrison, is a maintenance worker known only as Frank, living in Syracuse, New York. Finn discovered Frank when the man followed his Facebook page for the documentary. Something about his photo, bald, white-bearded, and elderly, caught Finn's attention. The resemblance to an aged Morrison was uncanny, and the rabbit hole opened quickly from there. Finn began comparing archival photos of Morrison with recent images of Frank. The likeness was unsettling. Both men had similarly shaped faces, matching jawlines, and even a shared scar where Morrison once had a mole. Frank, who was surprisingly open to being interviewed, denied being Morrison but seemed amused by the speculation. When asked directly if he was the rock legend, he replied cryptically, quoting the Jimmy Cliff song, "We Are All One." That's one way to look at it. Beyond physical similarities, Frank's lifestyle and interests echo Morrison's. He professes a love for the French poet Baudelaire, whom Morrison often cited as a major influence. He also shares the same vocal register and cadence. More provocatively, a photo surfaced of Frank with Doors drummer John Densmore taken in 2013. While Densmore hasn't commented, the photo has become a focal point in Finn's argument that Morrison and Frank are one and the same. Skeptics point to Frank's eye color, brown compared to Morrison's famous blue. Finn acknowledges this but offers an explanation: colored contact lenses or even arcus senilis, a condition that can cause bluish rings around brown eyes in older adults. A medical expert debunks the contact lens idea, attributing the blue hue to natural aging. Still, Finn isn't deterred. To him, the mounting coincidences suggest something deeper, something hidden in plain sight. The documentary's obsession and criticism.
You know, we just heard someone just told us that Jim Morrison is dead. So I said, what do you mean he's dead? Yes, he's dead. Jim Morrison is dead. It was 5:30 in the morning.
But the death was kept secret to avoid a sensation. He was buried in Paris in the same cemetery where Balzac and other French immortals lie.
Finn's documentary doesn't just float a wild theory, it reflects a decades-long obsession. As a teenager, he became entranced by the Doors' eerie sound and Morrison's ghostly legacy. The fascination turned into a mission. Finn admits in the series, quote, "Since I was 18, I've been searching for Jim Morrison, literally and figuratively." That statement encapsulates the documentary's tone, which often drifts between investigative journalism and a deeply personal quest. Critics of the series have pointed out its amateur production style and conspiratorial leanings. The narration is sometimes melodramatic, with Finn saying things like, "Join me as I dive down the Morrison rabbit hole," and describing new details as mind-boggling. The cinematography is also raw, full of handheld interviews and iMovie-style effects. While the series has moments of sincere investigation, it often feels like a fan-made tribute as much as a serious inquiry. Despite the critiques, Before the End has struck a chord with longtime fans of Morrison who never quite believed the official story. The series isn't the first to explore the idea that Morrison is alive, but it's certainly the most extensive. Finn has spent years interviewing Morrison's childhood friends, ex-girlfriends, and associates. When he shows some of them photos of Frank, their reactions range from skeptical to emotionally shaken. One former girlfriend tears up saying, quote, "That literally could be Jim." Finn's belief system may not be airtight, but it taps into something powerful: nostalgia, denial, and the need for unfinished stories to find closure. Unanswered Questions from 1971. Central to the theory that Morrison faked his death are the anomalies in his official death record. For one, there was no autopsy performed, an unusual decision given Morrison's fame and the circumstances of his death. French law at the time didn't require one unless foul play was suspected, but even so, the lack of medical investigation has puzzled biographers and fans for decades. The physician who signed the death certificate, Dr. Max Vasile, remains a shadowy figure. Despite being cited in official documents, there's no verifiable record of his career beyond Morrison's case. This has led some researchers to wonder if the name was fabricated or misattributed. Compounding the mystery, Morrison's coffin was sealed before any American officials had a chance to view the body. No photos were taken at the funeral. Adding to the uncertainty is the fact that Morrison's U.S. passport was never found. According to friends, he traveled to Paris with the intent of disappearing from public life. He was disillusioned with the music industry and increasingly invested in poetry. In fact, he had started publishing under his full name, James Douglas Morrison, and had told multiple friends he was considering abandoning his rock star persona altogether. This context matters. Morrison wasn't just burned out, he was actively trying to reinvent himself. Whether that reinvention involved faking his own death is, of course, unproven. But when combined with the inconsistencies in the official story, it provides a motive. And that's what makes this theory so compelling. The means, opportunity, and possible intention were all in place. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Jim Morrison really faked his death and has been hiding in plain sight all these years? Or is this just another rock and roll myth fueled by nostalgia and coincidence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.